I begged him not to leave. The words spilled from my mouth before I could stop them. I stood in the doorway of my home, married for 25 years, mother of 2 grown kids, pleading with a man I had just met, a man who was never supposed to matter. His shirt was tucked in his back pocket, his hands still dusty from sealing the last of the shingles. And me? I stood there barefoot, holding an empty glass that still had traces of the water I had offered him just 30 minutes earlier. I did not plan to feel anything. I did not plan to notice how the sun touched his skin, or how his eyes lingered just a moment too long. But there I was, aching in ways I had buried years ago. That was the beginning of the end. And it all started with a leak in the roof. And a thirst I never expected. Before I continue, I just want to take a moment to thank every one of you who has subscribed to this channel. Your support means everything. If you are new here, or you have been watching but have not subscribed yet, I want to say a big thank you as well. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because it is the fuel that keeps powering this channel forward. Also, please remember to leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. Now, back to the story. My name is Angela. I am 48 years old, and I live in Anchorage, Alaska. Life here is quiet, predictable, and cold, both in weather and sometimes in marriage. My husband, Andy, is 53. He is steady, responsible, and kind. But somewhere between raising our kids, surviving 2 job losses, and his late-night overtime shifts, the warmth between us faded. We did not fight, but we also stopped noticing each other. I convinced myself that was normal after so many years. Then came the storm. A harsh wind cracked our roof open like an old wound. We needed repairs immediately, but Andy was swamped at work, so I handled it. I found a local contractor named Martin, 40, strong build, and covered in the kind of quiet confidence that made you listen without meaning to. The first day he showed up, the sun was out, a rare moment in Alaska. He worked shirtless. I brought him water. That was all. Just water. But something inside me shifted. He looked at me, not past me, not through me, but directly at me. As if I was not invisible. As if I was not just someone's wife or somebody's mom. I told myself it was nothing. I went back inside. I even laughed at how silly it felt. But the next day, I watched from the kitchen window longer than I should have. The third day, I asked him how long the job would take. The fourth, I asked if he wanted to come inside for lunch. He said yes. We talked. Just talked. About life. About books. About music. About how lonely Alaska can feel even when you are surrounded by people. And then the job was done. He came down from the roof, wiped the sweat from his brow, and said he would be heading out. That is when it happened. I stood there in the doorway, heart racing, words tumbling before I could catch them. Do not go. Please. And he stayed. What happened next would unravel everything I thought I had under control. I wish I could tell you that I stopped myself in time, that the guilt rushed in and drowned the ache before it spread. But that would be a lie. Martin stayed that afternoon. He sat on the couch while I made coffee and we talked about everything and nothing. The silence between us was thick, not empty, but charged. He did not touch me. I did not touch him. But something passed between us that neither of us dared to name. When he finally left, I stood by the window long after his truck disappeared down the road. My hands trembled. My face felt hot. And my heart pounded with something I had not felt in years. Desire, fear, aliveness. Andy came home that evening, kissed my cheek, and told me he was exhausted. I made dinner while he showered. We sat at the table like always. But for the first time in a long time, I was not thinking about him. I hated myself for that. The days that followed were a quiet war inside me. I avoided calling Martin, but I kept scrolling through our repair text messages like they were something more. I stared at his name. Sometimes I typed a message, then deleted it. Other times, I let my thumb hover over the call button. Then, he called me first. "Hey," he said, his voice low. "Just checking if everything's holding up all right with the roof." I told him it was. And then I asked if he wanted to stop by anyway, just to be sure. He came the next day. This time, I wore makeup. I told myself it was just in case. Just to feel like myself again. Martin inspected the roof quickly. But instead of leaving, he lingered in the living room, hands tucked into his jeans. I offered him coffee again. He said yes again. I asked him about his life, and he told me he was divorced. No kids. He worked alone because he preferred it that way. "I like the silence," he said, "but sometimes it is too much." I nodded. I knew exactly what that meant. Nothing physical happened, but everything emotional did. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and saw someone I no longer recognized. Not just older, not just tired, but split in two. Andy came in behind me, brushing his teeth. He asked me if I was okay. I smiled and said I was just tired. And then I climbed into bed beside a man who had no idea how far I had drifted. The next week, Martin stopped by again. This time, he brought a box of nails, claimed he had forgotten to reinforce a few edges. I knew he was lying, but I let him in anyway. And then came the day I can never forget. Andy came home early. I was in the kitchen. Martin was standing too close. I do not even remember what we were talking about, but we were laughing. I had touched his arm. Barely, but enough. I did not hear the garage door. I did not hear the keys. But I did hear my husband's voice. "Angela?" We froze. I turned so fast, I nearly dropped the mug in my hand. Andy stood in the hallway, eyes darting between Martin and me. He said nothing at first. Then he nodded slowly, said he forgot his work phone, and walked to the bedroom. I heard the drawer open, then close. When he walked past us again, he did not say goodbye. He just looked at me once more. Not with anger. Not even confusion. With something worse, recognition. And then he was gone. Andy did not come home that night. At first, I told myself he was just giving me space. Maybe staying at a friend's house. Maybe clearing his head. But by the second night, when he still had not called or answered any of my messages, I knew something was broken. And this time it was not the roof. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the dent in the pillow where his head should have been. Silence filled every corner of the house. The kind of silence that did not comfort but accused. Martin texted me that night. "Are you okay?" I never responded, because the truth was I was not okay. I was unraveling. I replayed that moment again and again. Andy's face when he walked in. The way his eyes read the room before his mouth said a single word. He knew. He might not have had proof, but he knew. 3 days later, Andy came home. He did not yell. He did not demand answers. He simply told me he needed time. Said he would be staying at a rental across town. "I do not hate you," he said, "but I do not know who you are right now." His voice was so calm it broke me. He left behind his wedding band on the kitchen counter. I stared at it for hours, unable to move. That little circle of gold suddenly weighed more than the entire roof that Martin had fixed. And Martin? He disappeared. No texts. No calls. I drove past the address on his invoice and found nothing but a rusted mailbox and tire tracks leading into the woods. He was gone like he had never existed at all. 1 week later, I got a letter in the mail from the licensing board. Martin was not licensed. He had a history of complaints in another part of the state. One woman claimed he had stolen from her. Another accused him of showing up uninvited weeks after a job was finished. I had fallen for a man I never really knew, but the damage was real. Whispers began around town. A friend at church stopped inviting me to the women's group. My sister asked if everything was all right with Andy, then stopped asking when she realized it was not. I tried to call Andy again and again. I wrote him letters. I cried through therapy sessions. I begged God to give me one more chance to explain. But some roofs, once cracked, never seal the same again. It took 3 months for Andy to sit across from me at a cafe and tell me he had filed for legal separation. His eyes looked tired, older, and mine were no better. I did not leave because of Martin, he said. I left because you did not think I deserved the truth. I wanted to scream that I did not mean to fall, that I did not mean to drift. But meaning nothing does not undo everything. And so here I am, alone, living in the same house. The roof does not leak anymore, but everything else does. If you are watching this and you are holding on to something you have not said, please say it. Do not wait for a stranger to become your escape. Do not silence your needs until they scream through broken vows. I learned that temptation does not always show up in red dresses and dark rooms. Sometimes it wears work boots, carries a hammer, and offers to fix what is falling apart, only to break what matters most. Let me know in the comments what you think of this story. Have you ever seen a good person make a terrible mistake? Have you ever lost something real chasing a moment? Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if this story spoke to you. Your support helps keep this channel alive and fuels the raw, honest stories we bring to life every week. Until next time, take care of your heart and your roof.